Welcome everyone, and you're back with Sharon and Intimate Wisdom. Today I have Aaron Werner sitting with us, and we're going to be talking about a range of subjects, particularly with interest, the third culture kid. But first, let's find out a little bit more about Aaron before we go too deep. All right, so good afternoon and welcome, Aaron.
Great to be here.
Oh,
yeah.
no, isn't it fantastic?
It's good to get knee deep in a few subjects, so looking forward to it.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah.
Really excited, yeah.
And by the way, that's my fridge kicking in on the side there, if you can hear that noise. It's 50 years old, so it's older than me, fortunately.
Yeah.
So.
And it's American, and it's one of its kind here in New Zealand. So you're probably wondering where I am. Well, we're up in Auckland, in Ellerslie, at Aaron's home. So what we have around us is his beautiful
collection of oddballs, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Beautiful collectibles. But because this is his private space, I'm not going to show you anything. But anyway, okay, Aaron. So first of all, I want to figure out how long we've actually known each other.
So I mean, it started way back in about end of 2008 or somewhere around 2009, where I met Franz. I was recommended Franz for a reading. At the time, he was doing the spiritual fairs. And
he was too.
Yeah, way back when. I think he had his camper van at the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be the white one.
White Bedford. I think he had a Bedford. Yeah.
The Toyota.
Or Toyota, perhaps.
The old
yeah.
one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I was recommended Franz by one of our mutual friends that I didn't know knew you at the time, and Franz did me a reading, and way back when. So that was where it began. It was many years later that I actually needed a bit of support and guidance after another critical crossroads in my life. And I had one of Franz's tapes, spiritual reading tapes.
Back in the day?
Back in the day. And had his number on it. And this is, I think this was somewhere around about 2015, somewhere around there, 2015, 2016. And I called him up. And I said, "Are you still doing readings?" And he said, "Yep." And I said, "Where are you?" "I'm in New Plymouth." And I knew where New Plymouth was, and I thought, "Yep, I can make it." I booked a day with Franz, and I fired up the V8 and blasted down, and reacquainted myself not only with Franz, but just a bit more spiritual connection.
Okay.
So that was another sort of another time that I met Franz, and I didn't get to meet you until probably a few more visits later when you were based in Coromandel.
Wow.
So that was many years before I did meet you and connect with yourself as well. So
2015, we would have been working in. I would have been living and working in Inglewood. I would have been at work, and Franz would have been at home.
Yes.
And that's why we didn't. And you drove all the way down?
I drove all the way, I blasted down.
Wow, that's
4 hours drive down. I did it, I think, on a Saturday morning. I was up early, took off down. I really needed to connect with someone. And the fascinating things about Franz is when you do have a reading with someone like Franz, and it has that lasting effect, and you don't have any contact for many years. And he was one of the first person that came to my mind, when I realised, boy, I need to reconnect with someone who kind of understands me, who's has that stoic way of delivering a message. And Franz is excellent with doing that, especially at the time, me being a young man that I was. I needed someone to sort of understand where I was and give me that guidance, and Franz was the man.
Right.
And after all those years, I kept his tape around for a reason. So since then it's become more and more regular. So and I've been able to feed back into you guys, obviously, in terms of what you guys are doing, which has been very complimentary. So that's good. Yeah.
It's fantastic because I've often been hearing, and this has been happening for the last few months now, if you want to get your ass kicked, go and see Franz.
Yeah,
because he'll tell you he's a straight shooter. He'll tell you how it is.
Spade to spade. If you're not if you're not ready for the message, then it's not worth visiting. You've really got to get rid of your ego, or park your ego, I should say. Park your ego so you can receive the message and ultimately help yourself, really, because you've really got to confront yourself and where you are, the opportunities that you've got to be able to create for yourself and become the person that you really need to be, in all honesty. And people like Franz and Sharon, those kinds of people, like gold, really. It takes a lifetime to find someone like yourselves who are grounded and can deliver those gentle or generally sometimes less gentle messages when you need to hear them. But yeah, Franz is very good at doing that. I mean, he does deliver the messages with love, and the intent is 100% honesty and genuine. So if you're prepared to park your ego and face up to what you need to understand about yourself, you guys and myself, when I'm working with people as well, we just the pipe, as it's been explained. Exactly. It's just how we articulate those messages. So and articulate what's coming from the universe.
Exactly. Well, I met you in the Coromandel, so we were living up there, and I do recall you coming in and bringing someone with you, and I tried to think who it was, but you had another man with you. So anyway,
it might have been. Was he my father, perhaps, or
no?
I haven't met
your dad.
Friends. No,
not
at that point.
No, I haven't met your parents.
I think it was Mike.
Okay,
sure
so it might have been Mike. All right, so Mike is seeing Franz, or actually Aaron had been to see Franz first. Then I think I don't know where I would have been. I came back.
And we had a jolly good chat outside.
And Aaron and I, we started chatting. I've never met him before, and we just started chatting, and we were just like, we really connected on a spiritual level, also on a physical, on the physical side of talking about the physical sides of life. But we were also talking about the spiritual aspects, and I just fell in love with this young man.
Yeah, you can just unpack the universe, eh? That's how we get along. We just unpack the universe.
And now this is my second trip to Auckland to actually visit Aaron, and this is our second time that we've stayed here, and it just brings us so much joy to being here. So when I made a decision to start these intimate interviews or intimate wisdom chats, Aaron put his hand up and said,
Why not?
Why not? Yeah. All right, Aaron. So we've got some background about who you are, how we met. So who's Aaron Werner, and what's the now I think you described it as the third culture kid. Can you tell us about that?
This is something I've been coaching on and off myself, and helping others with, and it's originated from my history, my past, and my self-discovery, you could say. And understanding my paradigm. We all form paradigms growing up, and they could be a mixture of, they're obviously events and locations and experiences and relationships with family, upbringing, and all of those components that add to your paradigm. Now, some people grow up in one place generally. For myself, I was, for instance, I was born in Gisborne, on the east coast of New Zealand.
That's right.
And way back in the 1970s, and my father was a pilot, and he was undergoing a lot of training at the time commercially, and my mother and father decided in the very late 70s to go to the UK, and that's really where my youth was, in the United Kingdom. And then later on, when my father got another job in Asia, we then, when I was about 9 years old, I shot over, just as I was turning 9, we were taken over to Hong Kong.
Wow.
So I was I had the upbringing of being born in one place, growing up in another, in different cultures, and
at a very young age.
at a very
too.
young age, yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So that affected my paradigm and my understanding of the world and how I saw the world and how I compared myself to others and how I felt about where I was and what I wanted to do and why I had such restless feet in terms of not staying in one place. I was a bit of a global gypsy, you could say that.
Right.
And that was part of my paradigm. It was hard written into my psyche. So there was a part of this my self-discovery later on that I had to look back at my upbringing and my life, and that actually had an impact on understanding who I was. And there's a concept out there that psychologists work with. It's well understood, it's been well written about, you'll see it online, and it's the concept of the third culture kid.
Right.
And psychologists actually discovered this in the 1950s with respect to children that grew up, that were born in one country, to parents that were originating in one country and growing up in another country.
Right.
So in the early days it was the children of people that used to travel for church, for instance, travel to Africa or so forth, and
ministries.
Ministries,
Yeah.
children of people who just sort of spreading religion,
Right.
and then you had the army kids. So
yes,
mum and
right.
dad were based offshore from, say, the United States or from another country. If you grew up in Europe, you were sent by your country as a family to a foreign air base or a foreign army base, and as a child you grew up in an offshore country. So from this point onwards, actually psychologists have actually worked out that there's these kids are third culture kids. These people grow up to be third culture kids, because the first culture, if I may explain it, the first culture is your birth culture, and that includes your parents' birth culture. So I was born in New Zealand. My parents were New Zealanders. I was taken away from New Zealand at an early age. The second culture was the cultures that I was exposed to, i.e. Europe and Asia. And then the third culture was my own culture, my own way of dealing with those circumstances. So hence the third culture is the most important one when it comes to self-identification, because you relate, you are of a certain tribe of people, because I'm not necessarily from New Zealand, I'm not necessarily from the places that I've visited and grown up and experienced. I'm a combination of them all. So that third culture is formed to as your own sort of tribal understanding of the world. I like to say that my home is not necessarily that of New Zealand. My home is actually the world, because I have a world view, and third culture kids relate most to each other. So if I met someone that, say, grew up in, was born in United Kingdom and then grew up in Singapore, they would be a third culture kid, and I would be able to relate to their experiences, and they would be more on my sort of plane of understanding in terms of how we see the world. So the third culture kid is really a tribe of people that grew up in those circumstances, have that world view, and they can only really relate to each other. The only understanding is the relation to each other. They find it difficult to relate to people who grew up in one place and had what's considered to be a normal settled life, rather than an unsettled life where you're moving all over the globe, being exposed by to other cultures.
It's interesting because your dad was a pilot in Gisborne. So when he went to the UK, was he a pilot there too?
Yes,
was it like a
absolutely.
Was it like a transfer or a?
No. It was a case back then. it was a case of let's give it a go.
Oh,
So
right.
my father had gotten to a point where his employment opportunities in New Zealand were next to non-existing beyond what he was currently doing.
Okay.
In order to get ahead and also get the aviation experience and education was only offered in the United Kingdom at the time. The exams that he wanted to sit.
So it was an opportunity.
So and he had grandfather rights at the time, so he was able to get a UK passport, and off we went. And my brother was 9 at the time. I was under 1 year old. So for me, I didn't know New Zealand before I left. My brother did, but not me. My sister was born over there. She's another example of a third culture kid as well as my brother. She was born in one country in the UK to New Zealand parents, and then grew up. Her early life was growing up in Hong Kong. So from the late 80s all through the 90s. So she's a third culture kid as well. That's just another example.
Wow.
So we are a unique tribe of individuals that see the world from a certain perspective. And with that, we have our own sets of problems. One example is being able to settle down because we have no real fully fixed abode, so to speak. So we're always unsettled to a certain degree. And it's difficult to maintain relationships as well because of that feeling of unsettlement. So it's actually been proven by the psychologists that all of those elements of upbringing and being exposed to the third culture life, you experience obviously certain side effects, and that could be with relationships, family, decisions in life, and how you perform, or you not being able to stick to certain things, certain commitments, or just generally just getting restless feet. And that puts pressure on relationships and families and so forth, because one person feels like they need to keep moving or they need to go somewhere else. So all of those elements add up to a certain paradigm, as I say, and a certain type of life. Once you're a third culture kid, and you can become an adult third culture kid as well later on in life with all the travel that you do and living in foreign places. But once you become one, it's with you forever.
Right, so the third culture kid, even with all the experiences that you've had in your life, and at the age that you're at now, and how wonderfully spiritual you are, how highly intuitive you are, you still have that third culture kid
background. And influence.
That's right.
It does, obviously, when there's another side to it as well. When you're a third culture kid, you develop more of a survival instinct because you are faced with a lot of upheaval. Think of the example I gave before, the army kid who moves around when their parents get restationed to another country.
Yeah, that's huge.
There is a survival instinct that kicks in. So third culture kids are very well known for being resilient and can handle a lot of outside influences that are not very comfortable, if that makes sense. In other words, dealing with change, dealing with hardship, dealing with uncertainty is a big one. We're actually quite well tuned, and we've got a good toolkit generally to deal with those situations. So there's a lot of strengths that we develop. So there are some good sides to it, for sure. But it's something that's of self-discovery, and you have to come to terms with who you are. And just knowing that you're a third culture kid, or you've become an adult third culture kid, is a big step towards self-understanding who you are. But circling back to your question, you get a lot more sensitive to the environment and to the universe. And as part of that, spiritually, there's that opportunity to develop as well. That's a big one. So because your senses are on high alert, you have more intuition, your gut instincts are activated a lot more. You're good at profiling people generally, as a matter of course, when they walk through the door, because it's all part of your early training in adapting and analysing foreign cultures and scenarios. So for me, I came from a spiritual family anyway. So that was a good undertaking. My mother was very grounded in that. My father was very understanding as well, despite his very human work that he was doing. He was very, very grounded as well. His grandparents actually gave him a lot of guidance, I think, in the younger years. So I was very, very fortunate to have that foundation, and I wasn't alone in sort of having those aspects nurtured.
Yeah.
So, but it was a tough time, and a lot of there were some tough times, and obviously my empath side was able to be developed because of my circumstances as well.
Sure.
So yeah.
It's interesting because we had that conversation this morning, didn't we, about our circle of friends or the circle of people that we have around us. And especially now as our intuition is heightened, that we are more attuned to the energy that's around us. And we had that great conversation this morning that Aaron even helped me understand and get very clear on why relationships that I was in and friendships weren't working, and they diminished to almost like minuscule. And now, but what that's done for myself is it's shown me what it is that I need to do for myself, but it's also it's opened me to better relationships, people who can meet me at an energetic level that's comfortable for me.
Yeah, and not take them for face value
and
as
not
well.
take them for face value. Yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah,
it's just it's getting that gut instinct going in terms of I've always been an open and friendly person, but I'm also very reserved, and that allows me to be aware and grounded when someone comes in from left wing and introduces themselves to you, and I've developed a lot of observational skills, and I not only observe them, I observe myself. That's a big one. You know, how am I reacting to certain situations? When you put yourself into a third person, so you're not only observing what's going around you, you're observing how you react to those scenarios. That's a big one. It's very powerful if you can put yourself into that third person, where you're not necessarily judging yourself, but you're observing and you're thinking, oh, I could probably do a little bit better next time, or I could have reacted this way, or I didn't need to react at all. I could have just maybe kept my mouth shut at that moment. I'll remember that for next time. And you just slowly feed that into your encyclopedia of your psyche, and then you become the person you need to be. It's fascinating.
I'm loving it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the journey for all of us has been not always easy.
No.
And sometimes we've had to go underground. I've been underground a couple of times. Or gone to ground. What is it? What is that? I've gone into underground.
Monk mode, we call it as well.
Is it monk mode?
Yeah, the crowd that I'm part of, we call it monk mode. Where you just basically retreat, and retreat's not the word to use, but you basically ground yourself and you reserve yourself. Maybe just filter out the people you don't want to have around you, and you need some time to recoup, I should say, and just be alone. And monk mode is a good term for it.
Right.
Yeah. And that's good. And you can have micro moments of monk mode, or people can do it for weeks or months. It depends on what they've been through, what you're experiencing, what you want to achieve. But based on what you're saying, they're human beings. We learn from discomfort, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah. So if it's too easy, you're not going to remember. You're not going to remember.
Exactly.
And that's the aspect of it. And you're not going to hardwire that and use that as part of your tool set moving forward.
Sure.
So we're throwing these situations from the universe to shape us and to give us the learnings that we need to have. And it could be a micro moment, it could be a big experience, it could be many things. It's quite scalable.
I do recall when you're talking about going into monk mode, I really like that, Aaron.
Yes.
I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
So I went into monk mode for 8 years.
Yeah.
And decided just to live a physical life. Went out and got a job. Went back to my old trade of chefing. I'm a chef by trade, and went back to that. And I'm thinking, what am I doing to myself? Anyway, I enjoyed the time that I had.
Yeah.
But then
You're on a journey, right?
I was on a journey because I kind of got to a point where I was not comfortable with what the people that I had around me at the time, what they were doing, how they were behaving, and they were calling themselves spiritual people. And I said to the universe, if this is what spirituality is all about, I don't want to know. I used an expletive.
Yeah.
And said, no. And so I went underground. I went into monk mode for 8 years until a young woman who you've met said to me, Sharon, can I offer you a healing? And yeah, sure. And boom.
Yeah.
Came back out.
Again.
Opened back up again. And you know what? I will never go back to doing what I did for those 8 years, because my husband, straight shooter, tells it how it is, gave me a kick in the ass, said, you know what, Sharon, he said, you are denying all those people out there your skills, your skill set, your toolkit.
And you're denying yourself.
And I'm denying myself. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a big part of it. But then again, it's the litmus test for you as well. You've got that comparison of that experience where you can actually say, yeah, that won't happen again. And that's part of your toolkit. Sometimes, you go through that discomfort just to get that litmus test of what you will tolerate and what you won't, what's good for you and what's not. And good experiences are wonderful, but they don't tend to be hardwired so much in your soul in terms of development. So for you, you look back at these situations, don't you, and you think, no, couldn't possibly tolerate that ever again. But you went through it. It's a huge thing.
And it's part of our learning, it's part of our development, isn't it? And our awakening and self-discovery, as Aaron pointed out earlier on. And it is about resilience, because we're seeing so much change happening in the world now. It's huge. It's bigger than than we've ever experienced before.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's, and I believe that all the skills that we've accrued over a period of time is helping us through.
Absolutely, it does. It does in the end point to something. For example, I look at all my previous jobs. I work in IT. And the current job that I have right now is, you can almost call it the forever job. It's a wonderful, wonderful position. And I look back at all my previous jobs, especially the tough ones, when at the time I was wondering, what on earth am I doing? Why am I here? But the universe was giving me a skill set at the time, which that I am now firmly applying. And from all of those jobs, I can look back and say, yep, I got that tranche from there, I got that tranche from there, I got that tranche from there. If I didn't go through those experiences, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And it's not until much further down the track where you are in a position where you can utilise those experiences and skills that you finally have some understanding. And that's the good thing about it. Sometimes at the time, you have to reach the understanding that I'm here for a reason. I don't necessarily need to know why. Eventually the universe will tell me, or I will figure it out for myself, and sometimes it's years down the track. But that is something to pay attention to. You don't have to know why you're there at the time or have to understand everything. That's always a safety switch that people are trying to establish. Why am I here? What am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I with this person or experiencing this relationship or whatever? Do the best you can at the time. Understand that there are tough times, some extremely tough times, and understand that it's darkest before dawn, and there's a reason for all of it. And then later on, there can be some understanding, some reflection, and then by that time, you're a new person. You've graduated up the scale of self-understanding, self-love, self-opportunity. It's so many things, right? It goes back to the paradigm I was talking about earlier, right at the beginning. It's helping you shape who you are, good or bad. So and for you, for instance, I mean, this lady here, she was driving trucks. She went and drove B-train Kenworth trucks in the Australian outback. That is huge.
It was. And
It's
to think
massive.
how I got through that, I don't even know how I even got through sitting my license.
But you did it.
But I did it.
You got it all, and you went and experienced it.
And you know what, Aaron? I reckon it was like an up yours. That was my feeling at the time. I'm going to go and get my truck license because I can. I had nothing to lose.
Yes.
Because I'd lost everything.
Yes, that's right.
And
you were starting with a blank canvas.
I was, yeah. And it was kind of like a rebellious, like, I felt like a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Being rebellious. I'm going to go and get my truck license.
Yeah.
And I did.
You did.
I loved it.
It's fascinating.
I loved it.
Yeah, everybody has their remarkable story, right?
Yeah, I have some amazing stories about what happened in Australia.
Yeah.
And that kind of has helped me to be the person I am today, because that's where all my true healing started.
Yes.
Yeah, because growing up in the family that I grew up in, it was horrendous. So I was 33 years old and had nothing to lose because I'd lost everything. So I just started from scratch.
And you had to rewrite your paradigm.
I had to rewrite my,
you were, that's another thing about growing up and finding yourself. You have some scenarios where you've had some bad script or bad tapestry sort of woven into your life, and you need to remediate it. It's kind of like when you've knitted a quilt and there's been a few knots way back in the past. And you've got to go back and undo those knots.
Exactly.
And actually start again and say, well, I'm not that person back then, and I'm not going to be shaped by those experiences in that way. So that's a big part of it. So
and it's a choice too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's
a conscious choice.
It's a conscious choice to go back and untie those little knots and
it's taking your power back, because those past experiences hold you hostage. You've got to put them to bed by giving them the short review that they need in terms of understanding how they've impacted you, and then boom, put it to bed. As a third culture kid, I used to reminisce about the best school that I ever went to in Hong Kong, and I missed those experiences. And I knew it was never going to be the same again, right? We all have that situation in life where we hark back to the moment where we knew that things were just going along magnificently, and then the sadness creeps in around the fact that you're never going to get back there again. It's gone. All you have is the memories.
Is the memory of that? Yeah, right.
But what I found was I turned it on its head. I thanked the universe for those experiences. I was thankful that I ever had them in the first place, and then ultimately I used them as an example of what I was going to experience in the future. In other words, you have bad chapters and you have the opportunity to have good chapters again,
Right.
So that good chapter that I had back in the past gives me the fuel, knowing that life's never going to be the same as what it was, but I'm in full control of creating new awesome chapters, whatever they are. And you open yourself up to the universe. Number one, you put to bed the bad chapters and you make sure you avoid them as much as possible, right? And then
after you healed them,
After you healed them, absolutely. You gotta make peace with yourself.
Yes, most certainly.
You gotta make peace with yourself, and then move on, and then use your past good chapters as an example to look for your new life. I've always thought that you live many lives within your life. Sure, you've got your physical life from age 0 to whenever you get to the end of your life, but there's several chapters which you are a certain kind of person throughout life, and as a result of that you are constantly, dare I say, reinvention wouldn't be the right word, but you're recasting yourself in a new light, and you're becoming a person that you need to be, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And you're graduating from one chapter to another, and if you look back 2 or 3 chapters, you probably wouldn't identify very much with the person you were before. So that's the fascination about life. is the fact that you can create a whole new chapter and go through a whole new set of experiences and relationships, because in the end of the day, that's all you take back with you, right, at the end of your life.
Exactly.
Experiences and relationships, nothing else. But you're sort of graduating through different versions of yourself, and it's fascinating and it's really exciting. Once you understand the gift of life, it's really exciting. And
It's
heal the trauma.
Yeah, because it's interesting when you talk about new chapters, and you look at it, leave the old ones behind once you've healed them. And once you go through, while you're going through something, you're going, oh, why? And once you get through the other side of it, that's when the learning comes in, not while you're going through it.
No, quite often it's when the emotion settles down, and sometimes that takes years. And healing, for instance, with a breakup with a partner, for me it takes a good couple of years, easily. Yes. Men just aren't, and I actually looked this up because I thought, why am I not getting beyond certain feelings and certain understandings after, say, a breaking up with a partner, someone you love, and it was fascinating. I had to actually research how do men deal with breakups. Sounds crazy, but way back when, and this is my answer if you've got time for it, if you guys can put up with it, is during the caveman days, men either died in battle or died on the Serengeti getting eaten by a saber-tooth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, men are not used to breakups. Generally, we're not hardwired for breakups. Whereas women, when one tribe invaded another tribe, the men were generally dispatched and the women were taken as war brides. So that's a fascinating piece of our early history as human beings, because the women psychologically had to adapt to moving on, if that makes sense. So quite often you'll find men can't struggle long term with breakups. Women struggle more shorter term. Obviously there's, it's not apples for apples here, but there's a general trend. But I had to learn that for myself. I had to, and stop sort of blaming myself and understand. Once I understood the whole caveman side of it, the psychologicals around how you behave in certain situations as human beings, then the self-healing kicked in, because I wasn't driving myself crazy with my own, it's me driving myself. Well, obviously I took my self-responsibility, but when it came to my recovery, it had a big impact.
Right.
It gave me another light of understanding, and it helped me move on.
Recover a whole lot. So the clarity around that helped you move on a whole lot faster.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Possibly France may have mentioned something about that, but they're coming, re-establishing that with you is,
tapping into your tribal instincts, because really, as modern human beings, we only started harvesting crops and getting really organised as big communities a few thousand years ago.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Yeah. And our evolutionary theory, that's barely a drop in a bucket. So we always go back to our tribal instincts when it comes to dealing with certain scenarios.
Because that's pretty much loaded in our blueprint or our DNA, isn't it?
Absolutely, on how to deal with certain situations.
How to deal with, yes.
And then that's why, going back to the tribal aspect as well, the masculine is more, dare I say, for sacrifice, because the feminine was preserved for childbirth and keeping the tribe, for the tribe's survival. So, but
they were the glue, weren't they?
They were the glue, absolutely. Whereas men were disposable. Think of bees, honeybees. The worker bees are the men running around protecting the hive, sacrificing themselves for the hive to make sure that the hive as a whole, the queen, can do a job, and as a species they survive. Same with us as human beings. Right. So it's quite often when people are dealing with trauma or certain scenarios, if they can look at, maybe if they've got time to look at evolution theory, and how we were back then and why we behave and react the way we do, you get a bit of self-understanding to why you are behaving the way you are. So it can be creative, it can be quite enlightening. There's a natural psychologist in me, if that makes sense, and that was developed from the third culture kid, survival instinct. So being able to look at situations and get an understanding, get a gut instinct of what was going on, not have to find the answer straight away, but really to be in control of self. Right. And that transcribes to so many situations. So it's helped me most of the time, and then other times I've been a little too guarded, if that makes sense. If someone approaches me, in the past and every now and again as well, it's like, oh, what does this person want from me?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right?
That instinct
so I'm an instinct. They might have recognised me from somewhere and they're coming over and saying hi. So, or they might actually want me for something, whether it's good or bad. So generally my instincts are quite high in that respect. So just talking about the trauma stuff, I've had to sort of self-identify, and it goes back to giving yourself that chance, knowing that you're going to have some awesome chapters. It doesn't matter how old you are either. You don't say, I've hit such and such an age, it's all over. Well, okay, the universe will deliver accordingly if that's how you're going to think. There's many people in history that just didn't really care about getting older and just carried on living a full life, and that's fascinating. That I use their examples. Burt Munro, for instance, famous motorcycle racer.
Oh yes, yes.
Great movie, by the way.
That's
Very inspirational.
That's the Indian one, isn't it?
Yes,
with,
world's fastest Indian.
with Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful movie.
Was it? Yeah, I do recall that.
Yeah, and you could probably do a talk about that as a subject one day, because it's an example of someone who says in life, I want to do this, and nothing's going to stop me. And because they have that mindset, they achieve far more than they ever would have comprehended, envisioned. And that's the fascinating thing about life.
Well, that too, once you've set your mind on something, then the universe kind of collaborates with you and lines everything up. It's like this 3-week trip that France and I are doing now. I mean, you're our first port of call because of the IT, the information that I'm getting from Aaron about how to do things on the computer is fascinating, and it's opened up a whole new world for me. But everything just lined up. It was like, and all the people I want to see are all available. So when you talk about Burt Munro saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is how, so, and everything lined up for him, and he became famous for it.
Yes. Not
that he was, that was not what he was after.
He was famous for his example, which is a good place to be, really. If someone comes to light for doing something that's very, very engaging, very inspirational, and they themselves are a humble person, fantastic.
It's
best
the
example
inspiration, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah.
So if Bert can do it, you can do it too.
100%. Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do these intimate wisdom talks, because it's about inspiring others. And with you helping me to understand the third culture kid, now I get it. If you talked about that to me like 2 or 3 years ago and said to me, I'm a third culture kid, and didn't explain it,
yes,
I would probably think, a culture kid, maybe kung fu.
Just cultured. Just cultured. Yeah. Whereas the third culture is the life you're living.
The life you're living.
That's the third culture. Third culture kid is basically it's kind of putting together a salad. You've got your onions and your lettuce and your tomatoes, and they're all the other cultures. And part of those cultures could be where you came from, your parents, where they come from, and the third culture is the combination of the salad.
great analogy. I love that, Aaron.
Yeah.
I love that analogy.
I'm not a salad, but I'm a third culture kid.
Oh, yeah, but you're still delicious.
I try. I try. Yeah, so it's very, exactly. But I wouldn't have had it any other way.
No,
If
right.
if I look back in life, it was tough, but the experiences I had were phenomenal.
So how old were you when you came back to New Zealand?
I was, before I was 14, I came back to boarding school.
Right.
And I was flying back to Asia 3 times a year. So I was still living that life until the age of about 21.
Oh, right.
And then I was still travelling.
Yeah.
I was still travelling, and after that, so obviously in New Zealand especially, a lot of kids when they leave school, they go and have a gap year overseas.
That's
because
right.
they haven't seen much of the world. I didn't need to do a gap year. I didn't.
No.
I wasn't interested. I knew what London looked like. I knew what Europe looked like, and I just wasn't wired that way. But I still wanted to travel. So I saw a lot of Latin America and new places that I'd never seen before. So it was it hardwired me for the experiences to come, and I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, there's a little bit of trauma here and there. And not being able to go back to those wonderful moments, the trauma of moving and leaving friends behind, family behind.
That would have been huge as a young man.
Absolutely,
yeah.
It's very impressionable upon your persona, So
and your confidence too, because you've got to have a lot of confidence, don't you, to go and start at a new school and meet new friends.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that would even be traumatizing,
yes,
wouldn't it?
Yeah. The thing with me though is, and a lot of third culture kids, is though after a while they get used to those moves. Right. They get used to the change.
Of course, that's right. You said that at the beginning, didn't you?
When I was growing up in the UK, I knew I wasn't from the UK. So moving to another country from the UK was actually easier for me. Because the UK, it was a place to grow up. It was a home of sorts, yes, no denying that. But I wasn't really leaving home. Home was where my immediate family was.
Right, mum, dad, and sister and brother.
Yeah, that's right. And most of my family were moving to Hong Kong at the time. So really, my adaptation over and over again. The hardest one was probably coming back to New Zealand. Because I came back to boarding school, couldn't stand the school, and couldn't stand my new life here in New Zealand. So that took a bit of adjustment in my teens, and that shaped me as well. So that's another example of trauma and adaptation. But looking back on life, it is what it is. I don't have an issue with it. I made peace with it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
It delivered me some hard learnings. The discomfort. I guess I'd had it quite good for quite a long time, growing up in all these foreign countries, and I needed to be grounded in some way in the reality of things, whatever it was at the time. So yeah, I look back on those moments and think, well, it's the yin and the yang, right? It's the hot and cold. So at the end of the day, that's what I had to go through, and again it gave me another certain set of skills to work with and understanding. So that's where that is.
And you're so well you're so well versed in so many things, like the conversations that we've had. It's almost like you are a walking, talking book of knowledge, because you've got a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge about life.
Yeah, depth comes from experiences, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're actually looking at coaching people with their difficulties and discomforts. And I commend you for that. That is amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
I love it.
I think I'm just a walking book of experiences.
Yeah.
To be humble. And it's healing for me to be able to have those engaging conversations. I coach men at certain points in their lives, mainly men, and it's great to be able to give them some foresight and some understanding. It's very relatable for me. A lot of people come into my life that I'm coaching, and I can actually go, oh, he reminds me of that scenario that I was in. Let me talk about that, and they can empathise with that situation, and they can understand. I can empathise with them immediately. They can empathise with what I'm talking about. They understand on a certain frequency with them, and as a result, that's when they can open up and actually look at self.
Yeah, because there's that connection made, and then the trust, isn't it?
Yes.
And they start to trust you, and then.
But then, exactly.
Opening up and talk about. And
exactly.
That's aha moments.
That's right. It's one of those situations that allows for that growth, because at the end of the day, those experiences with those people, again, you're a pipe, right?
Right.
So you're allowing them to heal themselves. You're helping facilitate that they heal themselves. That's your only reason why you're there, is for them to get self-understanding. So that's a big one. So yeah.
And and then they get to choose. Oh, the dog's just walked in.
Not my dog.
No, it's our boy. He's very lucky to be in the house, actually. Anyway, so what it does is they get all that wonderful information from you, and then they get to choose how they're going to apply those principles or those philosophies or that wisdom into their lives.
Absolutely.
And voila, magic happens.
I see myself as someone that just greases the bearings.
Oh, well, that's
simply what I do when I'm interacting with these wonderful people who need a bit of self-guidance.
Yes.
And it's great to see them open up like a butterfly and have that self-understanding, and again, my walking knowledge of experiences does help empathise with that.
And it's like, but there's also the other side too, where some people are not reachable because they're just not ready to receive that information. So they're the ones that, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how well we might explain something, how well we might do something, it's just going to go.
Yeah, straight over the head.
And it's just,
And you tend to notice, don't you?
Yeah.
If they're open and at a point where they can self-progress, then it's worth your time and a bit of effort. But if they're not, then step away, because it's a waste of energy. It's a waste of energy. If you're not ready to take on certain things in life,
I agree.
or you deliver the message in little bits and pieces and allow them to open up themselves, knowing not to go too far, because it's overwhelming.
Because people process things at different times, at different levels, don't they?
100%.
Some are fast, some are really slow.
It depends on their paradigm.
I know.
Yeah.
I get that. Took me a long time for things to click in.
Yeah.
Clicks in a lot faster now.
Yes.
As I've gotten older.
Yeah. It's what comes with it is the intent.
That's right.
It can take 1 year, it can take 10 years, it can take 2 months, whatever. But if you've got the intent behind what you need to do in terms of that self-discovery, and you can park your ego.
Park the ego.
You can't park the ego, it's a waste of time. It's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes.
Yeah.
If you don't quell the ego and settle that down, it's pointless. It's pointless going any further. So that's a big part of what we go through with people we work with.
You know, it's interesting, Aaron, because now I'm in this place of I'm absolutely at peace with everything in my life.
Yes.
All the experience, I'm at peace with it all. And what I'm finding now is, if there's something that I want to know, I will ask the universe to show me. And within hours of asking, it will arrive, like boom, but not in a way that I expected it to happen. No. And it's like, oh shit.
The universe has its ways.
Has its ways, it sure does.
Yeah, if you're on that frequency.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, and it's like, oh dear, okay, so how am I going to handle this? How am I going to react? How am I going to behave? So it's like, so you behave or react or act accordingly.
Yes.
With integrity.
And intent. Yeah.
And intent, yeah. And with your dignity. Yeah, I've always believed in that.
It's quite big. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
It's
Aaron, this has been absolutely enlightening.
Oh, we'll do it again sometime.
Oh, I'd love to.
Like. Yeah. There's many subjects we can discuss. It's fantastic.
Sure.
But it's wonderful to be able to get together and talk shop, so to speak. Talk about the universe, I think.
Well,
it's a big
it's
thing.
interesting because Aaron attended one of our retreats a few years ago, and we had a wonderful time. And you know what he said to me, and he's been saying to Franz and I for the last 3 years. Hey guys, so how about taking one of your retreats overseas, or how about Hawaii? And it's like Franz and I just couldn't get our heads around that. And then he would keep asking us, hey, so have you thought about it? Are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? And so
I felt like they had to do something bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you
for
did.
themselves.
And so when we completed the retreat here in March 2025 in Inglewood, I think it was in that week that I said to France, we're just going to go and do it. We're just going to do it, and voila, it's happening. So the timing is just so right, just the timing for us to come to Auckland and talk to you and help me with the IT stuff.
Make it possible.
Making it all possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
Wow, it is exciting.
Exciting journey. Yeah, life's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, look, I'm excited about life now.
Yes.
I'm in the later stages of my life, in the twilight years, I guess. However, I'm having the time of my life. Because I believe that all the hard shit's behind me. However, I'm dealing with the other stuff that bubbles to the surface now a whole lot better, a whole lot faster than I've ever done before in my life.
Yes. Yeah. It's a great, when you come to a point in life where you can reflect on a constructive level, that's when I think you're at one of your most powerful moments, where you can help others and understand the world enough, I should say, and be wise enough to understand how to push yourself along, no matter how old you are, and work with others. So that twilight can come at any time in life, really. It's that nirvana of understanding of self. So it's an exciting thing to see what you guys are doing, and it's necessary as well. It's necessary.
We feel that too.
Yeah.
We feel it too.
Because you'll have people that will watch some of these podcasts or interviews, and you'll never ever meet them, you'll never know them, but there could be one thing that you say or one little line that they'll just get, and it'll just be the key that unlocks their development and that sea change that they need to have, that breakthrough, and then boom, they're away, and that's the gift. That's the true gift.
And you'll never know how they've developed or what they've done with their lives. Some people, we do get feedback. It might be many years later, and we go, wow, really?
Yes, absolutely.
We had no idea, and that's what I love about this work. We do it without expectation.
Yes.
We do it without wanting some reward or anything. But our biggest reward is when people come back and say, I've done this because you inspired me, and it's like, and those are our wow moments.
Yes, it's a frequency thing. I'm a simple person that comes back to frequency, and what level you're on, and how you resonate with others, and then that corresponding impact. I've always surrounded myself with people in my life that know far more than I do on a particular subject or whatever, so I can learn from them. And that's helped me step up my game in terms of whether it's business or self-love or whatever it is. So I've always humbled myself by, as I say, putting myself with someone who could actually be a lot more advanced in a certain realm, and to the point where it actually can be quite intimidating, but knowing at the same time that you need to have that discomfort and that growth, and parking yourself with someone or a group of people for a period of time, and then that's how you grow. And that
happened for me in 2023. There was times I felt so much deep discomfort that I didn't think I was actually going to get through it.
Yes.
but this person, this coach, just pushed me and kept pushing me and pushing me.
Yes.
And it was like, wow, best thing I ever did.
Yep.
Best investment I ever made.
Fantastic.
It is. It's great.
Yeah. So, and it's going to happen again and again and again. That's the wonderful thing about life, is you open yourself up, and we're students of life, right? We are students of life, indeed. Year after year. We are reimagining ourselves into the person we need to be, becoming that person, stepping into the light, and then doing it again in so many ways. So we never stop learning. This is what
I talk. I often talk to people about reading self-help books. We get a book. I think I might have even put a post on Facebook the other day about this. You get a book and you read it and you go, yeah, wow, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, close out the book, goes on the bookshelf, and then we just carry on with life. And we feel good about reading what we read, but we don't apply any of those principles. Everything that felt good, we don't apply it. For some people, it's too hard to change. Other people are too busy or too distracted, as we talked about this morning. I loved that. I actually loved that, Aaron, about the distractions. And so what I'm now coaching people into doing is, if you're going to get a self-help book, read the whole thing, and then go back and reread it. But read it chapter for chapter or paragraph by paragraph. And what resonates with you, close the book up, breathe that application or that simple philosophy into your life, and start living it and breathing it and walking it. And once you've done that, integrated it, go to the next chapter.
Yeah. And another thing is, don't put the book back on the bookshelf.
No.
Put it on your pillow. So when you walk into your bedroom, you see the book sitting on your pillow, and it reminds you, keep moving.
Keep moving. Yeah. Exactly.
And you could develop certain ways of reminders, so a reminder on your phone or something.
That's right.
It takes 90 days to reform a habit.
That's right.
So you've got to get through that 90 days.
I learned that when I was started my management role in farmers.
Yes.
It takes 90 days to form a habit.
Yep.
Yep.
Or change a bad one.
Good or bad. Yep. So 3 months, folks. Did you hear that?
Creatures of habit, we are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, indeed. So.
Yeah.
All right, my darling. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and I'm so excited about this. Aaron, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've helped me understand a few things. I've even had a few aha moments just sitting here with you, just for this hour.
It's all about discovery, isn't it?
Yes. So I'm a 67-year-old chick, and I'm still learning stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm
it's just a number.
It is. I don't feel like it. Yep. I could. Yeah. All right then. So that's it from us, folks. Look, have a great week, and we will be joining you again next week. Okay, with a new guest, and thank you, Aaron, for having this time with us.
Yeah,
and sharing all of this with our listeners. All right, so bye for now, everyone, and take care.